So the Pokemon Presents presentation was just shown off for Pokemon Day, which is today, February 27th, and at the end of the presentation, we all got what we all thought we were going to get, which was the announcement of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC. All of the stuff from the DLC looks extremely exciting, and in this video, I'm going to be going over everything that we saw in this DLC, and basically talking about everything that you might have missed and need to know, because there is a lot of really interesting stuff here that you could have very easily missed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So first off was something that was actually a bit surprising because it was something we were all expecting to see, but it's not even technically a part of the DLC, and that is the two brand new Paradox Pokemon that have been teased in the main Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games that resemble both the legendary beasts and the Swords of Justice. We've been talking about these two mysterious Pokemon for a long time, and they've finally been revealed here, and they are known as Walking Wake, which resembles Suicune more in particular, and Iron Leaves, which resembles Virizion. Now, as I said, it's interesting to note that these don't really seem to be a part of the DLC and just seem to be kind of like an extra thing, because they can actually be obtained via a raid battle starting right now. And the other interesting thing about them is that they don't really resemble the appearance that they took on in the Scarlet and Violet books that we've seen up to this point, because Walking Wake looks way more draconic and way more like Suicune in particular, as opposed to the rest of the legendary beasts, and Iron Leaves looks a lot more like just Virizion as opposed to the rest of the Swords of Justice, which is kind of interesting. I don't really know if that means anything, but it's something to take note of. When it comes to the actual DLC itself though, they revealed it as coming in two parts. The first part is known as the Teal Mask, and the second part is known as the Indigo Disk. These parts are going to be coming out in fall and winter of this year respectively, so we're going to have a lot to look forward to as this year goes on. The first part, which is going to be coming out in the fall, the Teal Mask, actually seems like it has a lot going for it, because there are several new Pokemon that have been confirmed for this, as well as what seems to be a pretty cool and interesting story. So two new legendaries have been revealed for each of these DLC parts, and the legendary that is going to coincide with the first part of the DLC, the Teal Mask, is known as Ogerpon. Now, we don't really know anything about either of these legendary Pokemon aside from their names and their designs, but Ogerpon, in my opinion, looks pretty cool. I think it looks really interesting. If I had to guess, it's probably a grass type of some kind, and it seems like it's going to have a lot to offer, both in terms of design as well as lore once we learn a little more about the story of this DLC. The other thing that's really cool about the Teal Mask section of the DLC in particular is that it seems like it's actually going to sort of be like a mini Pokemon adventure in and of itself, because it takes place in not Paldea, and actually a completely new location that is known as Kitakami, and it seems very Asian inspired, and it also seems like we're getting what is essentially a new set of starter Pokemon in this DLC, as well as three other Pokemon were introduced that coincide with this first part of the DLC, and they are known as Okidogi, Pheasantipede, and Munkidori. Based on what we know right now, it feels like we are going to choose one of these three Pokemon to adventure in the DLC with, just like we would a traditional starter Pokemon. I'm actually going to be going way more in depth on this whole idea in another video that I'm going to have out very soon, so stay tuned for that. But overall, this looks like a very, very interesting and intriguing premise for a DLC expansion, and I am very excited to get into it. The other really interesting and exciting thing about this DLC, though, is that it seems like both parts are going to be concurrent with one another in terms of their story. And the reason for this is because we also get the introduction of a couple new characters in the Teal Mask part of the DLC, and those would be Carmine and Kieran. Carmine and Kieran are from this new Kitakami location that we go to in the Teal Mask. However, they also appear in the second part of the DLC as well, which seems to imply, as I said, that there's going to be one overarching story between both parts of the DLC that are going to essentially connect the two together, as opposed to something like the Sword and Shield DLC, where they were very much separate. And the idea of an overarching story sounds really amazing, so I'm really excited about that. We also get to learn a little more about Carmine and Kieran on the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet website, and it states about the two, quote, Carmine, the elder sister of the pair, is strong-willed and can be a little selfish, but she always looks out for her little brother, even if she isn't the best at showing it. Word is that she can be chilly towards people from other regions. Her little brother Kieran has a quiet, gentle nature, and he often hides behind his big sister. It seems he's curious about you, though, when you arrive from the Paldea region. As I mentioned, it states on the website that these two are from Kitakami, and that they actually also attend Blueberry Academy, which is the site of the second part of the DLC, as students. And getting into that second part of the DLC, it is known, as I mentioned earlier, as the Indigo Disk, and it has you studying as an exchange student at this new Blueberry Academy, which is stated to be a sister academy to Naranja/Uva Academy on the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet website. It also states that Blueberry Academy, unlike Naranja/Uva Academy, is much newer, and it also focuses specifically on Pokemon battles. It also seems to be the case via the website and via a little bit of the trailer that almost all of this academy is located under the ocean, as we get to see a glimpse of it in the trailer, just being located out in the middle of the water with seemingly no real attachment to anything else. Via the key art for this part of the DLC, we also got the introduction of 4 new characters who apparently are going to appear at Blueberry Academy, or at the very least are going to appear within this part of the DLC. We unfortunately don't get to learn anything more about them, but they all seem very interesting. And the other interesting thing I think is interesting about this part of the DLC in particular is how this is going to connect to the Disk Legendary, and how all of this stuff is going to connect to Area Zero as a whole. Because the legendary that features in this second part of the DLC, the Indigo Disk, is known as Terapagos, and it is obviously the Disk legendary that has been mentioned in the main Scarlet and Violet game via the Scarlet and Violet book, and has been hyped up by the community this entire time. Additionally, the overarching title of this DLC that encompasses both packs is known as the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero. So obviously, this Disk legendary, Terapagos, and Area Zero play a central role in what is going on in this DLC. However, very distinctively, we are going to places that are not Paldea within this DLC. Traveling to this place known as Kitakami in the first part, and then going to this Blueberry Academy that seems like it's away from Paldea and out in the middle of the ocean in the second part. So how does all of this come back to Area Zero and tie into what is going on within the main plot of the games that resides in Paldea? There obviously is going to be some kind of connection here given the title of the DLC, but it is yet to be seen or alluded to yet what this connection is going to be. So we're just going to have to wait and see, and hopefully we'll get more information somewhere down the road fairly soon, but it's going to be very, very interesting to find out what that is, and I honestly think we are in for a treat with not just the second part of the DLC, which is usually the more climactic part of the two, but I feel like both of these DLC parts are going to be equally as engaging. Overall, I am just really excited by what we got here. I think both parts of the DLC look really good and just seem like they both have a lot to offer, and genuinely, just based on what we know right now, it already seems like we're probably going to get more from this DLC than we got from the Sword and Shield DLC. And that is just based on what we know right now from the announcement trailer, and obviously there's even more stuff that hasn't been shown to us to this point. So I think, like I said, we're in for a treat with this DLC expansion. I think both parts are going to be great, but now I want to know what you guys think. What is your reaction to all of this? What are your thoughts? Do you feel good about this? Do you have your own personal theories and ideas? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more if you're new. It really helps out. And like I said, stay tuned for another video that is going to be coming tomorrow, where I'm going to be talking a little more in depth on the Teal Mask part of this DLC in particular. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.